my dear friends and masters. We are with another global master today. So as you all know, Pyramid Valley is organizing weekend wisdom sessions. On the Saturday and Sunday morning, it is a 2-day workshop, a master class, and every Saturday evening, we have a talk from a global master. So today we have Ms. Navneet Kaur from Singapore. We welcome you, Navneet.
Thank you, Shalini, and namaste, friends. I want to say a big thank you to everybody at Pyramid Valley International for this opportunity to share today. It's really an honor, and I'm very grateful. Thank you so much.
So, my dear friends, let me introduce Navneet once. So, Navneet was introduced to pyramid meditation in the year 2011. It was during that time she was searching and experimenting with various meditation techniques. Her regular practice of pyramid meditation led her to the great inner transformation. After leaving her corporate job in the year 2014, Navneet dedicated herself full-time to service and spirituality. She regularly organizes pyramid meditation sessions in Singapore and designs and conducts workshops on various spiritual science topics. So, my dear friends, today she is going to speak about the stages of soul evolution. So, we all know we are not the body and we are soul. And let us hear from her what are the different stages of soul. Soul is a soul. So, it's quite interesting because there are a lot of newcomers and spiritual seekers who have joined and who have started their meditation in this pandemic time, like probably 2 or 3 months ago. So surely this topic of yours will throw a light to them and get them to the next level. So thank you, Navneet. The session is here.
Thank you, Shalini. So friends, a warm welcome, and yes, we will begin with the topic, and I will now share my screen. So friends, yes, meditation has been a wonderful journey for me. I've realized so much about myself over the last 9 years, and it was only in the last 2 years that I started putting together knowledge, wisdom that I read, that I understand into these PowerPoints, so that I can share with others who are also on their spiritual journey, all this wisdom that I also have benefited from. So today's topic is stages of soul evolution, and we are the soul. So we're going to understand first in this today's session the 5 dimensions of being. So we as humans, we exist in 5 dimensions, and we're going to understand these 5 dimensions. And then we're going to discuss the soul cycles. So there are 5 soul cycles that correlate to these 5 dimensions of being. We're going to understand them with a deeper understanding. And then we'll understand how souls learn and evolve on this planet Earth. And then we'll take questions and answers, and hopefully we have time to do a meditation as well. So I'll start with the topic per se. So first of all, everyone knows Earth is a school, Earth is a wonderful school where many, many souls come and for their learning and for their evolution and their growth. So we're going to understand the soul cycles. Just as on Earth, we have a school. We have a school system. We know that at a certain age, the child goes to primary school, and then goes to high school, and then college, and then university. So similarly, there is a structured development also for our souls. Our souls also have a learning path. Our souls also go through a structured way of learning. So we will understand this better. So the structure is from infant soul to old souls. So a soul goes through all these 5 stages to realize their Buddhahood, their Krishnahood, the Christ consciousness, we can say. So all these cycles has to be passed through by all souls. There's no skipping, We don't skip a cycle. We don't say we jump from infant cycle to young soul cycle. No, we go through all the cycles. Just like in school, we go through all the school system from low level to the highest level. So we go through from infant all the way to old souls. And this cycle can take up to 400 lifetimes on average. From infant soul all the way to old soul, it takes up to an average of 400 lifetimes, plus or minus, depending on the evolution of the soul. And each soul moves according to their own rhythm. All souls have their own rhythm, their own cycle that they plan and they decide. There's no such thing as moving fast or moving slow. It's all according to the rhythm of the soul, and they decide and they discuss with their soul group, and they decide how quickly they want to move along this path. But of course, growth can be accelerated. And this is not a hierarchy. So we don't say like a college student is better than a high school student. We don't say such things on earth, right? It's just a stage of development. So similarly, we don't say an old soul is much better than a child soul. No, it's just a level of development that each is going through. And similarly in school, when we go to school, there'll be sometimes some small percentage of students that don't graduate to the next level. They get stuck in that level. They don't pass the exams and they don't move forward. So similarly, in the incarnation path of a soul, it's also possible that a soul gets stuck. It gets stuck at that level and the progress gets delayed. And why do you think that is? Because of suicide, right? Suicide is the one thing that causes the soul to be stuck at a particular level. They're stuck there and they can't move forward. So, and suicide is something that the soul does consciously using their free will, right? They use their free will to say, okay, they want to end their life. So this is the meaning of suicide. So suicide has great repercussions. It slows down the progress of the soul, makes them stuck at a particular level, and they have to work extra hard to learn the soul lessons and move forward. Right? So on Earth, the interesting on Earth is all the souls from the different soul cycles, we all mix. We all mix together. In your family, you can have a child soul with a mature soul, an old soul with a young soul, and all can be in one family unit, in one community, perhaps. So there is an intermingling. So it's very useful to understand this topic, isn't it, friends? To understand where we are in our soul progression. So before we understand where we are in our soul progression, let us understand the 5 dimensions of being. And I learned this from my teacher, Brahmarshi Patriji. Such a wonderful tool using the 5 fingers. With the 5 fingers, we can understand which dimension of being we live our life at. So each of these 5 fingers represents an aspect of being. So we can say our little finger represents our body, our ring finger represents the mind, our middle finger represents intelligence, our index finger represents our soul, and our thumb, our thumb represents spirit or all that is. So these 5 fingers are a wonderful way to understand how human beings live at which dimension. So let's understand each dimensions, and then we can correlate it to the soul cycle. So starting with body, right? So where do we get our body from? So this represents body. So where does our body come from? Okay, it comes from our parents. Our parents, we follow the facial features, the height, the weight, some genetics. We get it from our parents. We look like either our mother or father or both, combination of both. So our physical body comes from them, So we can say this finger represents body, comes from parents. And then the next finger, a ring finger, which is represented by mind. So where does our mind come from? Mind comes from society. What is society? So society is everything that's in our surroundings. So in our surroundings, we have our parents, we have our family, we have the media, we have the environment. What type of environment did we grow up in? We even have the time period. If you look at the time period, society has labeled people who are born in different time periods. For example, someone who's born in the 50s or 60s, they call them the baby boomers, right? And then someone who's born after the year 2000, we call them the millennials. So even society has labeled people who are born during different time periods because they recognize, right? They recognize that the thinking is different. Someone who's born in the 50s and 60s, they think very differently from someone who's born, in the year 2020. They would think very differently. The mind would be different. So our mind is a product of society. Whether we are born in a rich family, so is our mind abundant? Are we born in a Muslim family? Do we have a Muslim mind? We're born in a Christian family, so we have a Christian mind. We're born in a communist country, so we have a communist mind. So our mind follows the surroundings, the upbringing, and then it follows also the time period. Which time in history were we born? So our mind is definitely a product of society, and we pick up all these mindsets. And when we become adults, we have these fixed mindsets, that people have based on their upbringing. And then the next finger, which is the middle finger, and this is represented by intelligence. So what is intelligence? Let's look at what intelligence is. So intelligence is what differentiates between good and bad, between truth and false, between right and wrong, between what is beautiful, what is ugly. And whatever the mind says, intelligence can differentiate. Intelligence can see what it is, what is good, what is bad. So I'll explain this further with an illustration. So let's say there's this boy and his name is David. And David decides to cheat in his exam. And so he says, okay, he doesn't want to study, but he wants to pass. So he says, okay, I'll do this cheating. But on the day he's caught, right? He's caught, and he's caught by teachers, and he's severely punished. And he learned his lesson, right? He learned something. Cheating leads to severe punishment by the school and by his family. So 6 months later, for the year-end exams, his classmate says, hey, David, why don't we cheat in our exams? So what would be David's reply? So David would think, okay, his mind will be tempted. Why don't I try to cheat again? But then his intelligence will come because he had that experience. Remember, 6 months ago, he had that experience that he was caught for cheating and he was severely punished. So his intelligence will come in, and his intelligence will say, no, I don't want to cheat. So he'll tell his classmate, I don't think I will cheat. It's not a good idea. We might get caught. So regardless of what the mind is thinking, the intelligence comes in and makes the decision. So where did this intelligence come from? Because he had that experience. He had that experience of cheating and getting caught and then getting punished. So our intelligence depends on our experiences. All the experiences that we have gained in all the past lives, including this lifetime. So 90% of all the experiences in this lifetime, or 90% of our intelligence is coming from our past lives, and 10% is coming from this life. So our intelligence is all the accumulated experiences. So you can imagine if the soul had more experiences, more past lives, more experiences, that means higher the intelligence, more intelligence. Right, and you can use the word buddhi. So some people say buddhi, call this intelligence buddhi. So this intelligence gives the soul the experience, and this experience is like a distilled wisdom that allows them to understand what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong. So souls exist in body level, mind level, intelligence. So let's look at the next one, which is soul. Right? So essentially we are soul, and that's represented by this index finger. And the soul is that which is immortal, is part of spirit. It's if you look at the tree, if you look at the picture of the tree, we can say that the soul is represented by one leaf. Each leaf represents the soul. And then the entire tree represents the spirit. Right? So the spirit is this finger, the thumb. So we can say the entire tree is the spirit. So we can say you and me come from the same source because each of us is this one leaf. We each the soul. So you and me, we come from the same source. Your God and my God is the same. So these are different ways of putting it. So spirit, we say, is all that is, the creator, the source. These are different names, right? So spirit is, we are the speck, right? So our soul is the speck from spirit, right? So to recap, it's such a wonderful concept, isn't it, friends? 5 fingers and 5 fingers representing all the dimensions of being. So to recap, body, we are a body system, we are a mind, we have a body, we have an intelligence because we have all these lifetimes where we have so many experiences. So our intelligence has been accumulated and we are a soul, right? We don't have a soul, we are the soul. We have a body, we have a mind, we have accumulated intelligence and we are the soul. And the soul is part of all that is, which is spirit. So understanding these 5 dimensions of being will help us to understand the 5 soul cycles. So these 5 soul cycles, they represent the complete incarnation path for human soul. You know, it's like school, you know, from like nursery level all the way to university, you know. So this like complete, you know, the complete education system. So on earth, the souls have a complete incarnation path for the human soul. So friends, we will move from infant, child, young soul, mature soul, and then old soul. So if I use the 5-finger concept, I can actually correspond each of these 5 fingers to the different dimensions of being. So we can say, in other words, at the body level is an infant soul. At the mind level is a child soul. At the intelligence is a young soul. At the soul level is a mature soul. And living in the spirit, you know, corresponding with spirit is an old soul. So putting this side by side gives a lot of clarity to understand these dimensions of being and how they relate to the soul cycles. So we begin with the infant soul. So infant souls are souls that are living in the dimension of body. Primarily, they are living in this dimension. Their identity is at the level of body. And these are newly incarnated souls. You know, they have just come to earth. They are adjusting in the body. Before this, they did not have a body. They did not live in a physical body. So they have just come to earth, and it's just like a baby, right? Isn't it like a newborn baby? So a newborn baby, when they are so small, they are just getting used to being in the physical body. They are getting used to the body, what it feels like to be in the body. So they become very sensitive. They are very defenseless. They are very dependent, isn't it? They are very dependent on the mother, the caregiver, for all their needs. You know, to be fed, to be carried, to be changed, everything. They are dependent on the caregiver or on the parents. So it's the same for these souls. So these souls, they're very helpless. They depend on others for care and support. And their focus, their life focus is survival. Survival and procreation, you know, meeting the basic needs, their basic needs of survival, food, nourishment. And these are souls that usually they choose to be born in. So we look at responsibility, right? So these souls, they choose to be born in groups where they can take communal responsibility. right? So if you look at a baby, everything is done by the mother, right? The mother is the one taking care of the child. So everything is done by the mother. So it's the same. These souls, other people take responsibility for them. They give their responsibility to others. So usually the setting would be a village or a tribal setting where there's a tribe leader, or there's like a large family where there's like somebody who's like head of the family who will make the decisions, and these people just follow. So they don't really have opinions of their own. They don't take responsibility for themselves. They don't have. They have not yet started developing opinions for themselves because they are new souls. Remember, their intelligence is hardly there. Haven't accumulated. They don't have much lifetimes. So hardly any intelligence and almost zero intelligence. So responsibility is given out to others. So it's not necessary that they are only born in primitive societies or in this village setting. They can also be born in developed countries. But if they are born in a developed country, usually the setup will be a situation where somebody else is taking care of them. Even as they become adults, somebody else is taking responsibility for them. They don't have much responsibilities of taking care of the self. So this is how the nature of infant souls is. And towards the end of the cycle, these souls would have adjusted to the body. You know, joy and pleasure would have been experienced at the body level. You know, they feel less insecure. They have gotten used to being in the body. They are not so helpless. They've taken quite a few lifetimes. Their understanding of being on earth has improved, and they are now ready. You know, they are ready to move to the next soul cycle. So how long this cycle takes depends on the soul. You know, how quickly they get adjusted to themselves in the body. You know, it's just like in real life when the baby starts walking, then he doesn't need to be so close to the mother anymore, right? He can start walking and explore his environment and go further apart. So it's the same with the child soul. They can feel more confident. They feel more confident to be living their life independently. So they are ready to explore the world. So remember, the ring finger represents mind. So these souls, they live more in the dimension of mind. And where did our mind come from? As we discussed, mind comes from society. Society gives us our mind. So life is lived according to society. Society. So let's look at how life is lived according to society. So these souls, they are the obedient children of the society. You know, there's like society has all these trends, culture, politics, religion, whatever is in their environment, they will follow. You know, for example, you know, when we are young, right? All our role models. Who was our role models? You know, our role models were people in society, isn't it? I mean, when I was 14 or 15, my role model was somebody who was successful or very prominent in society, right? So when we are young, when these souls, they are following the society, their role models are people who are from the society. You know, they look up to people in the society. It could be celebrities, famous people, successful people, politicians, and they try to imitate them. So they look up to even family members, what family members say, what others in the society are doing. They start to follow. You know, so they are the obedient children of the society, and this is when karmic ties are first started to be created. So in this child soul cycle, karma first starts to be created. So let's look at that, friends. So let's look at responsibility. You'll notice that I put in responsibility in each of these cycles because this is actually very important. It's very important for our learning with regards to how souls learn. So let's look at a child soul. So a child soul, for example, a farmer. You know, the farmer has a cow. So the farmer feels responsible for the cow because the cow is providing milk. The cow is serving him. So, okay, he feels responsible. So let's say the cow is no longer providing milk. You know, the cow stopped providing milk, the cow has aged, and what happens? So the farmer feels no sense of responsibility for the cow anymore. It's like, okay, it's not providing milk. So what will happen? The cow might be totally neglected, might be sold, might be killed, anything, you know. So basically, responsibility for the child soul is just seen in the material sense. You know, so these child souls, they just regard people or animals in their environment as those who serve their needs. So, you know, if somebody is useful to them, then okay, it's useful. They use them. And if it's no longer useful, then they are discarded. You know, I was in Rajasthan a few years ago and they said the camels were being used for tourism, for transportation in the tourist industry. And the tour guides, you know, they told me that when the camel becomes old and is no longer useful, cannot do work anymore, they just let the camel go and they don't take care of it anymore. You know, so it's the same mindset. It's like if you are useful, you will be used. If you are no more useful, you will just be thrown away. You know, so this is the mindset that child souls have, and this creates a lot of karma because people how they treat others, they will be treated, you know, used and discarded. So these are the mindset. This is the level of responsibility. You know, they don't have this sense that, oh, this, for example, this cow is part of the family, we should continue taking care of it. No, this sense of responsibility is very, very material and just limited to that. So a few child soul characteristics. They like to explore, right? They like to explore the material world. And these are people who are very easily influenced by their social circle. You know, the trends, what they follow the trends, what is happening in the society, they follow, you know, and they could easily, you know, go into the wrong circle, right? When you follow blindly what is in the society, you might even go into the wrong circle. You might join the wrong social circle, get caught, for example, and go down the drain. You know, your life might be ruined. So these are people who they look at all these things as fate. Something negative happens to them, they say, oh, is my bad destiny, is my fate, you know, this is supposed to happen, it's my bad luck. So these souls, they continue for a couple of lifetimes until they decide, you know, I don't want to accept this fate. They're no longer satisfied to accept passively, you know, that, oh, this is my bad luck, or this is my destiny. You know, they want to take action, they want to take control of their lives. So that's when they can graduate. See, a child soul was passively accepting the things, and then when they are ready to no longer, you know, to challenge their life, they are ready to move forward, challenge the life, then they move to young soul. They become, they graduate to the young soul cycle. Now, I'll give you an example just to make sure it's very clear. So, for example, a child soul, if he fails in business, you know, he starts a business and he fails, then he would say, oh, it's my bad luck, I will not do this business anymore. For example, it's a textile business and the business goes bankrupt. He'll probably say, oh, it's my bad fate, I will never do business again. But a young soul will challenge his fate. They'll say, no, let me try again. I can't be such a lousy businessman. Let me try again. So young souls are those who are ready to challenge their fate. So they live in the dimension of intelligence. Remember, intelligence comes from our experiences. So in order to have experiences, we must take action, right? If we just sit and we say, oh, the experiment failed, so no point. No, but no, we have to keep trying. When we fail, we try again. You know, so the more we try, the more results we get from our actions. So this is the nature of intelligence, right? Intelligence is doing actions, getting experiences, and accumulating experiences. So young souls are souls who want to gain as much experience as possible. They live in the dimension of intelligence. So remember, the more the lifetimes, the more life experiences, the greater the intelligence. So this cycle is is shaped by people who want to keep trying and keep being successful in the material world. So these are souls who will try their very best to succeed in the physical material world, achieving material success, achieving wealth, testing their strength, their willpower, and in the process, a lot of karmic ties are created because the mindset is still there. The mindset, okay, if you are useful to me, I use you. If you are no more useful, I discard you. So they go through a lot of learning in this cycle, a lot of learning, a lot of trying and testing. And the focus is very much on the self. I, me, myself, right? And the focus is on material gain, ambition, driven to succeed. Self-worth is measured based on external success. So these are souls who will do whatever needed to become successful in the world. So they can be in any field, right? They can be in politics, business, trade, finance, even in sports. Some people they compete in sports, not necessarily because they love the sport, but because they want to prove that they are very good in that sport. They are ambitious. It could even be in religion. To become leaders of the religion, a particular cult or religion or group. So the leadership is there. It's very strong ambition to succeed and achieve results in the material world. And these results which they achieve gives them great satisfaction, great happiness from achieving success in the material world. So let's look at their sense of responsibility. So these souls, they understand that their actions have consequences, right? The child soul didn't understand it in depth. It was very limited understanding. But young souls, they understand that what I do has positive effect or negative effect. However, they are unable to see that one day they have to take responsibility for their actions. And I'll give an example. For example, somebody opens a factory, but the factory is causing major pollution. So the factory is successful in making money, but the young soul will not bother. If the young soul is not caught by the government or any groups, they will just continue with the pollution. They don't have the long-term view or the vision of the understanding of how their actions are affecting the society, right? The focus is more on the material, and we do see that a lot, right? We do see that in our life. A lot of politicians, a lot of people who run major MNCs, people who are in the leadership posts, a lot of them are young souls actually. And these are young souls who are very successful. They give us new highways, they build new roads, they give us clean water. But a lot of these actions have repercussions. Planet Earth is getting destroyed. Pollution has increased, greenhouse gases has increased. So this is how young souls operate. The vision is, the focus is on the growth, the economic growth, and sometimes it's at the expense of the negative effects that they cause onto the planet Earth. So let's look at the end of this cycle. So souls in the young soul cycle, when they reach the end of the cycle, its peak of the success has been achieved. Many lifetimes are spent trying to achieve success in the material world. And towards the end of this cycle, this success has been achieved, regardless of whichever field, they have achieved this success. And they will remember this success. And then they start to question, what is the value of material success, the value of achievements. They start to see that it's very temporary. All these things are, they don't give, what is 1 million in the bank account? It doesn't give that satisfaction anymore. There's no longer motivation. So when there's no longer any motivation to strive for material wealth or material gain, money doesn't give happiness anymore. They see the limitations of the wealth and success. When this thinking starts entering their mind, these questions start entering their mind, then they are ready to graduate. They graduate to the mature soul cycle. Okay, that means all life experiences has been completed in the young soul cycle. They are ready to experience new things. Their search is different. So they live in the dimension of soul, which is represented by our index finger. So when you live in the dimension of soul, you start looking inward, right? You start valuing things which are not outside of you anymore. So things which you value, like eternal joy, happiness, to understand, how to create this happiness, which money cannot give, which fame cannot give, which name cannot give. How to, so these are souls. Maybe when they have a career choice, for example, they won't look at the pay package. They'll try to see, okay, do I get job satisfaction? Before I take up this job, will it give me satisfaction, or is it something that's just paying me a lot of money? So these sort of questions start entering their mind, and in this cycle, a lot of karmic debts, they start to be paid off, because child souls and young souls, they accumulated so much of karma, karmic ties, karmic debts, and now these start to get paid off. And also these souls, they can handle their life situations much better, because they've gone through a lot of life experiences. They are more mature. So what these souls do at the beginning of the cycle, they would look for avenues of joy. They might find it in music, explore music, arts, things that don't really give a lot of financial gain, but have the possibility for joy, for internal happiness, which cannot be measured using money. These are things you can't measure using money. So music, the arts, doing social service, humanitarian work. There's a lot of humanitarian organizations out there. They do a lot of charity, a lot of humanitarian work, helping the poor, building schools, giving education. So these are mature souls. These are mature souls that want to give back to society. They think, okay, how can I, helping others will give me some joy. Some joy will come, which money cannot give, which fame cannot give, which name cannot give. So lifetimes will be spent searching for this, doing humanitarian work, doing all of these actions. And then after a while, they realize that this joy actually is quite short-lived, So let's look at their characteristics. So these souls actually look at self-reflection. They are interested in introspection. They become quite strong. They can handle their life challenges, because as you're paying back karmic debt, sometimes life is very challenging. So they become stronger, more resilient, able to take on the challenges of life. And they look at themselves. They do more introspection, more self-reflection. And ethics, we spoke about responsibility. So morals and ethics become personal. For the young soul, the ethics, they leave it to the government. Government will take care of the ethics, of the morals. So they don't have a personal sense of moral responsibility. They don't look at their ethics. So mature souls, they would, you see. So if it's a mature soul that was running a factory, that opened up a factory and was producing things, he would actually this person would look at the environment. Are my actions causing harm to the environment? So they have a better sense of responsibility. And their search for joy is eternal search, eternal joy. So these are people who would go from pillar to post, seeking where to get this joy from, because the music may not give them the eternal joy. The arts, helping people, feeding a poor person, it's useful, it's helpful, but the joy might not be eternal. So they start searching. It's just like Gautama Buddha. Had he not left the palace the search wouldn't have started. So his search started when he left the palace. If he was not seeking, he would not have left the palace. So these are people who are seeking truth, and they go for many workshops, visit healers, try to understand what life is about, try to experiment with many techniques, read a lot of books, try to do kind of what you call spiritual shopping. A lifetime can be spent doing spiritual shopping, or a few lifetimes. And then finally, towards the end of this cycle is when they become serious. They find a meditation practice that resonates with them, that they feel very comfortable with, and they sit in meditation. They start their practice, and they realize something. So that's when they shift. They shift to all souls. Okay, when some enlightenment happens, then the shift happens. So this enlightenment is what the soul has received, understanding what is, that I'm not just a body, I'm not just a mind, I'm more than that. I'm more than just my body and my mind. So the shift happens, they understand. So when this shift happens, then they graduate to all soul cycle. So in the all soul cycle, life is lived in search of God realization. This is represented by this finger. So self has been realized. Now it's time for God realization. So living in the dimension of spirit. Spirit is all that is. The consciousness that is in us is also in the animal, in every rock, in every mineral, in every plant. So this realization happens. And they go through the path of teaching and spiritual service into the oneness consciousness. There's this understanding that everything is connected. So why they go into teaching, why they go into research, service? So even if we looked at Buddha's life, when Buddha became enlightened with Anapanasati meditation, he didn't keep his meditation for himself. He didn't keep it to himself. He spread it to everybody, right? Because you want everybody to get enlightened. You want everybody to benefit. So these are souls that pursue teaching, research, and spiritual service. And this awakens the wisdom. So wisdom gets awakened. And then the other thing that gets awakened is compassion. So by becoming vegetarian, they understand that their consciousness is also there in the animals. So they become a voice for the animals. They spread vegetarianism. They understand the depth of compassion. And their actions are more in service of the humanity. So some of the characteristics include service. They're very service-oriented, loving and compassionate people. And they understand the universal laws. They've experienced their multidimensional self. So they understand that we have to live according to these universal laws. And personal ties usually mean very little to them. That means they don't have close, tight attachments. I'm sure you've read books of all these saints and sannyasis, who left the family and went to the Himalayas to meditate for years and years. So they didn't have any attachment to their family members. They were ready to search, go within themselves, and they follow the soul path. And the soul path comes to them. So responsibility for them is full on. Is full understanding of the law of karma, all the spiritual laws. So they start to assume responsibility for themselves, their thought, their speech, their actions. They understand cause and effect, and they would consider all dimensions if they were going to take any decision. So they live very closely aligned to the spiritual laws. So friends, to recap, we've gone through the 5 soul cycles, and we've understood how the 5 soul cycles are aligned to the 5 dimensions of being. So an infant soul very closely lives in the dimension of body. Their main focus is getting comfortable with the body. A child soul mainly lives in the dimension of mind. Their focus is exploring the society, exploring the world, getting in sync with the society. What the society says, they do. And if anything happens, they accept it as their fate. right? So young souls, they live according to the intellect. Their interest is on themselves, is on material gain, and they follow the path of materialism, okay, to accumulate as much experiences, to test their wit, to test their strength, their abilities in the material world. They want to see how great they can be, how much success and how much greatness they can have in the material world. And for that, a lot of experience has to be collected, to be accumulated. So many lifetimes are spent accumulating many, many experiences, falling down and getting up again, falling down and getting up again, and accumulating all these life experiences to become as successful as possible. And when they have reached the peak of the success and they question what is this success, then they move to become mature souls. Okay, they are now questioning what is this meaning of material success, and then they move into other avenues. So music, art, humanitarian service, social service, helping others, and then trying to understand how to find this eternal bliss, this eternal happiness. And when they find it, they start experimenting, they start sitting, they start their serious practice, their serious sadhana, sincere practice. Then they graduate. They graduate to all souls. So all souls have experience of enlightenment. They know what it is. They have the memory of this experience of enlightenment, of what it's like to merge, how the soul merges with the spirit. They have this experience, right? So they have this experience and they are born again as all souls. They live as multi-dimensional beings, wanting to connect, live in this oneness consciousness, wanting to serve the humanity and wanting to spread that. So friends, we have finished 2 parts of our session today. We've understood the dimensions, 5 dimensions of being, and we've understood how these 5 dimensions of being correlate to the 5 soul cycles. So now let's understand how learning takes place for the soul. So we all come to earth, right? And we all go through these 5 cycles. We've gone through these cycles, and we want to understand how learning takes place. So how exactly does learning happen? When you were in school, right? Or you probably are in school. Right? For me, I was in school quite a number of years ago, but I do remember, if we had to study a subject, for example, chemistry, right? So I would take the chemistry subject, and then I would see the syllabus, right? You see the syllabus, what you have to study for this chemistry subject, and then you go to the classroom, right? We go to the classroom, and then we go to the lab because we have practical and we have theory, and then at the end of the semester, we take the exam. I don't know whether it was your favorite subject, but I had to take this chemistry exam, pass the lab test, and then pass the theory exam. Right? So this was how we did, right? We had to go to school and we had to read everything in the textbook, understand what's in the textbook, and then go for the exam. So that was how we learned in school. So how do we learn? How does the soul learn then? On the earth? Is there a textbook? Is there any textbook or manual? Any teacher giving us every day some notes to study, some notes to read and to practice? No, I never received notes. And I'm sure many of you didn't receive any notes, right? So how did the soul learn? So let's look at how the souls learn. So number 1, they actually make a plan. In school, like we said, the chemistry, you have a syllabus, right? So the souls also have their own syllabus. But who made this syllabus? We made the syllabus, and we made this syllabus before our birth. So if we are born in 1980, this syllabus was already planned by 1979. It was all done, planned nicely, syllabus from age 1 all the way to your last day, what will be happening to you on earth. And so this was planned with our guides. So we call this the soul plan. It's like a blueprint for our soul. And how did we learn from all these things? Right? So learning depended on the soul's evolution. Right? So which cycle was the soul in determines how they learned, how deeply they learned, how intensely they learned. In school, right? You can just read the textbook once, or you can read the textbook 5-6 times, and you can learn very deeply, right? So it's the same. So on earth, learning happens, we can divide this learning into two aspects and look at the souls in terms of two different aspects. So infant, child and young souls, they are on the outward journey, right? So their learning is just looking at what's happening around them. They just learn based on what they see, is what their mind interprets, and they just take it as, yes, that's my learning, you know. So if they see a disaster happening, they say, oh, a disaster has happened, oh, very bad, very bad. So that's their understanding. A bad thing has happened, tragedy has happened. If something great has happened, the understanding is, oh, some great thing has happened. So learning is very superficial. It's just based on the environment from the level of mind. So when souls become mature and old souls, then the journey becomes inward, right? Situations are not seen from just one point of view. Situations are seen from 360 degrees. You know, they're seen from all the angles. So what is this inward journey? So this inward journey begins as soon as you stop seeking outward. That means you're not seeking answers from outside of you. Something happens in your life, you are not going to somebody to get the answers. You know, you're not going to some teacher and tell me, oh, what happened? Please explain. No, you know, answers are coming from within. And even the peace, the joy, and the happiness is not coming from outside. You know, you're not chasing it from outside anymore. So seeking is no more external. It begins as soon as you stop seeking outwardly. So seeking is all internal. The answers are coming from inside us. So this is the meaning of inward. So mature souls, they start their inward journey. The day the person stops seeking outside, they are going in. So I want to explain this with an example because I think examples are good and they give people better clarity. So this is an example. Okay, there's a couple, John and Mary. Okay, they're married for 5 years. And then suddenly John's business fails, right? His business fails, he's bankrupt, and his wife Mary has an affair and she leaves him. So this is the scenario, right? So let's look at this illustration and see how the souls will learn. So what would John do if he's a child soul? How would his learning be? You know, if he was a child soul, if he was a young soul, a mature soul, or an old soul, how would he look at his life? So if John was a child soul, right, he would, all these things that happen to him, he will just say, it's my fate and my destiny. Oh, it's my fate and my destiny. What to do? People like Mary are like this. He probably have a lot of judgments about women, a lot of blame games, blaming others. The finger is outside, remember, because their journey is outward. So when your journey is outward, your finger is outside. You know, your finger is pointing at others. So it's still pointing at others. Others' fault is other people's fault, is other people's responsibility. So they don't take responsibility, and he probably wouldn't want to take any further responsibility. So maybe he won't remarry, perhaps. And if life is very challenging, they might even contemplate suicide because they don't understand life, right? And life, if they cannot understand life, then they might think, oh, let me just end the life. You know, so they are still living, doing an outward journey, living at the level of body, mind, this level. And then what if it's a young soul? Again, the finger is pointing outside. Your fault, right? Other people's fault. But these are young souls, right? So they have the ambition, right? So they try again. John would try again, try to be successful in business, try to be successful in love. And maybe business and marriage for them is a status symbol. You know, it's like, if he's successful, it's great. He's a great person in society, you know, if these things are so successful, you know. So they may even contemplate suicide if life is so challenging, because again, they don't understand life. They don't understand the deeper meaning of life. So what if John was a mature soul? How would he view life and how would he understand things? he would feel the hardship, right? He would feel life is hard. But then mature souls, they do self-reflection. They do self-reflection and they do introspection. So the finger is slowly starting to point towards them, is slowly starting to point towards themselves. So they would discover when they are doing introspection, they might discover their dark shadows. They might realize, oh, I'm such a short-tempered, or I'm such a, I have these dark shadows about myself. I have these things about myself. So they start to take responsibility. They take responsibility for their actions, their behavior, their pain, their suffering. So these are people who will try to dig deeper, try to understand life in a deeper way. So they might go and see a past life regression therapist, try to understand, is it karma? Maybe it's because of karma, these things happen to me. So maybe go and see a healer if it's too painful. Go and see a healer to get healed. Go and see a therapist to get some answers. So they are trying to get answers, and they're trying to do self-respect reflection and look at within themselves. So what if John was an old soul? Wow. If John was an old soul, he would accept the situation, right? So there's no more pointing finger. Finger is pointing here. Yes, something has happened. I accept. Okay, so that's responsibility, right? So that's a wonderful way of taking responsibility, accepting the situation, not blaming anybody. It's not anybody's fault. It's not God's fault. No, it's total understanding, total acceptance. And learning starts coming from within. So if you look at the word intuition, intuition starts when a person starts meditation. When they start meditation, you close your eyes and you're going within. So if you look at the word intuition, it's actually two words, in and tuition. So it's interesting because the word tuition means learning, it means training, and the word in is in. So the learning and the training is happening from within. So when we start taking responsibility for ourselves, and we do meditation, we actually get a lot of answers. So for example, John, if he starts his serious meditation practice, he might start to see his past lives. He might start to understand why his business failed or why his wife left him. He might see, oh, he did the same to her maybe. So he would get answers from within himself. His astral masters might guide him, give him messages. He starts to see his past lives. He understands this was planned by him. His soul is the one that planned this situation for some higher learning. Everything is karmic. So he would have greater understanding. So souls on this path, who are on the old soul cycle, they learn deeply from within themselves, by themselves, and fully from themselves, right? And this understanding that the souls get from their meditation practice gives them a lot of bliss, because they understand life in a much deeper way, and this gives them the freedom. We want this freedom, don't we? We all want this freedom, and we want to get an A score, right? In school, they say you want to get A. So we want to get understanding. This understanding frees us, gives us the peace and happiness. And in this responsibility, so John would have taken this responsibility, right? So we look at responsibility in a deeper way. If you look at each of the soul cycles, I've actually shared how each of the souls in each of these cycles, how they view responsibility, starting from the infant soul to the child soul, the young soul, mature soul, and the old soul. So all these, the more they move into the path of the older, as the soul progresses, responsibility becomes something that's very valuable and something that they take very seriously. And this is what gives the soul maturity. They become spiritually mature people. Right? As they go along the cycle, they become more mature. This sense of responsibility makes them mature. So if you look at a very enlightened being, he said, be the change you want to see in the world, from Mahatma Gandhi. And it's true, if you want to see any change in the world, it starts from the self. So responsibility actually starts from ourselves. And this makes us mature. the soul becomes more and more mature. The choices of food, is the food that I'm eating harming the planet, harming the animal kingdom? Is it good for me and for others? The choices of speech, the words that I speak, is it harming others? Is it violating others? My actions, my behavior. And they'll learn how to use free will more wisely and learn how to live in the golden middle path. So, with responsibility comes greater spiritual maturity. And this is the essence of all the souls that go through this soul cycle. They become more and more mature. Right, friends? So, I just want to end off by saying that meditation is very, very wonderful tool. Meditation really gives us the awareness and the energy. And if you look at the five fingers, when we do meditation, it's our spirit and our soul merging together. And this act of spirit and soul merging together gives us great, abundant cosmic energy. And this awareness, we take it with us at the body level. The body gets cured of diseases, more and more cosmic energy. The mind gets corrected. All the mind patterns get corrected. The intelligence gets corrected. All the wrong beliefs gets corrected. So, like looking at the mind, if we had a negative mind or a disastrous mind, with meditation, our mind can actually improve. So when we are children, we follow the mind patterns of our society, our upbringing, our surroundings. But when we grow up, we have a choice. So with meditation, we are the creators of our thought patterns. So with meditation, we can move. We can move from disastrous thinking to negative thinking, positive thinking, and then to miraculous thinking. So regular meditation really disciplines the mind, creates new ways of being. And you see, if you forget to do meditation for a few days, you'll see that your old ways of being return, old patterns of the mind return. So in order to change habits, it's very, very wonderful to do meditation to change all these old habits. So friends, in conclusion, this is the 5 soul cycles, and learning for the soul goes in a very deeper way once the soul starts the inward journey. So mature souls, they start their inward journey leading up to old souls, and the learning becomes much greater, much more in depth. And they go back, when they leave the body, they go back with so much clarity and understanding of their life purpose. And this, because they have this sense of responsibility. The more responsible we are, the more our astral masters, our higher self, can give us guidance about our soul purpose. So there's great understanding for all souls to understand what they are doing on earth, what is their purpose, why they are here. And let's not forget, friends, growth is forever. Right? Even after souls, old souls, they continue growing. Growing in other universes, growing in other dimensions. So growth is forever. Growth never stops, and growth is forever. And with this, I bring this to an end. My sharing to an end, and thank you so much.
One incident you took and you made it so very easy for people to understand, like how a person, like not a person, like how a soul in the different stages can come across the same situation. How do they deal with it? It was just awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you, Shalini.
Thank you, Navneet ji. It was great hearing you today. So thank you, Navneet. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, friends. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.